Welcome everybody, and congratulations for doing some summer learning. I'm excited to be here. Today I want to talk to you about integrating visual arts into all areas of your curriculum. And I designed this presentation for all the elementary grades, primary to grade 6. I am a grade 1 and 2 teacher currently. And yeah, I have recently studied at NASCAD. I did a 2-year program for teachers there, and I really got inspired to increase the amount of visual arts that I integrate into my classroom. And I love helping other teachers do that too. So I'm going to show you some of the things that I have learned. In the Department of Early Childhood Education documents, this quote is repeated for every grade. It says, while opportunities are offered for ongoing sequential instruction in visual arts, the curriculum stresses the importance of infusing visual arts throughout the elementary school program. So they're using the word infuse, they're meaning to integrate. So our goal is to focus on those core areas like language arts and math, but also don't forget science, health, social studies, visual arts, and other important areas of the curriculum. So on this slide, I've just put a link for you to the visual arts curriculum outcomes for all the grades. And I've also put a link for the Nova Scotia curriculum outcomes, just for easy access for you. And so you're welcome to have this presentation. When I'm finished, I will provide you the link if it's not already on the feed loop. And because I've put a ton of links and things that hopefully will be valuable to you. If you would like more accessibility, I know that the feed loop program has more accessible things available to you. So if you just go to the top right hand corner of the event portal, you can see those. And so yeah, you'll be able to click on these links. You don't need to worry about taking notes. But my goal is throughout all of the curriculum, these words are repeated over and over again. So create, engage, express, demonstrate, respect, reflect, learn, experiment, and create. And so that is our goal. So why art? Obviously, art is super fun. But beyond that, it is part of our curriculum. There are visual art curriculum outcomes for all grades. And it's a really fun way to integrate with all subject areas. There's so many possibilities, which is what I'm here to share with you today. When you start to get more comfortable with a variety of art mediums, you'll just see how adjustable it is and how versatile it is for whatever grade you end up teaching and for whatever ability level of your students. And as you get more comfortable with teaching art and these art mediums, it'll just become part of your classroom. And so that's really UDL. It'll, right from the beginning, you'll be offering such a wide range of ways that students can demonstrate what they've learned, which is our number one goal. So students will also, make connections and see how art can actually connect to their real world. Art is all around us, if you just look, and also potentially, future careers for them. So in the visual arts curriculum outcomes for primary to 1, it states that students will work both independently and collaboratively to solve problems and respond to ideas and experiences by making and examining visual art. And activities might include painting, drawing, sculpting, and weaving, and exploring puppetry, multimedia, printmaking, textiles, and design. And I know that when I first read that, when I started teaching the first time, I was like, wow, I'm going to be teaching weaving, sculpting, puppetry, what's printmaking? Like, I was overwhelmed by that, the thought that I needed to have all this expertise. And so that is why, though, I have tried to educate myself more by going to NASCAD and trying to help others like myself by, working with colleagues and presenting, for example, here today. So I'm going to show you some that you may not, you might be surprised what you already know and how easy it will be for you to integrate these things. When I go to my colleagues' classrooms, I see so much painting and drawing. I see work with design. It's a lot of our science outcome is constructing and using materials. Those things are being done very well. Things with photography, with all the devices. So I'm going to focus on a few of those other ones that maybe we don't quite feel like we're experts in. And so I just wanted to say, inspire you and encourage you and say, just, start small, but just go for it. So you don't have to consider yourself an artist yet, but I would like you to start calling yourself an artist. Just like when you are introducing a writing genre, you'll talk about yourself authoring a piece of poetry, or, you will say that to your students. So you need to start doing it with art also. So you are going to be an artist by the end of this presentation. So creation is a process, and in any process, there are problems, challenges, and unexpected successes. So that's the just go for it part. And if there are problems and challenges and you're doing this in front of your class, that's okay. That's great for them to see. We want our students to be problem solvers, right? We want them to try new things. And so we're going to demonstrate the good, the bad, and the ugly, so to speak. So today, there are some art techniques that I'm going to explore with you. Printmaking, clay, paper folding, text art, photography, and collage. And the reason I picked these ones is primarily because they are things you can do with your classes and have supplies available that don't really cost you any money, because I know that's often an issue. It can be things that you find, recyclables, things you can collect. Clay might be the only one there where or photography where you do need some devices, but often a school will have clay and devices. So hopefully that will be okay for you. So because I'm giving you this presentation, I'm not going to go through all the history of each style of art that I'm introducing to you. But as part of our ongoing education as teachers, it's really important to understand the root of, scientific topics or the history of politics, if we're teaching government, or, so I wanted to make a collection here of resources for you. And so on this slide, there are two excellent links to do with printmaking. So the first one here is the history of printmaking, and it's a timeline that shows you that it was one of the very, very first types of art ever produced, and it was used for communication. And way back, like Babylon time, people were stamping stories into, etching it into rock and then rolling it out onto clay so that someone could travel with some news. Wood blocks in China for textiles, patterning. And then when China invented paper, it was really easy to make multiples of works, and then writing started and type presses. And anyways, the whole history of printmaking is there in a really short, brief thing if you click on the first link, and it's great for your own knowledge. And if you are teaching probably grades 4, 5, or 6, they'd be very interested as well in looking at a lot of that and be able to understand it. The next link is an excellent resource for contemporary Canadian printmakers. We have a lot of excellent printmakers in Canada, and this one shows a lot of the current ones and where they work, and depending on where you teach, you might be able to touch base with a printmaker and have someone come to your class and help you present to your class. So yeah, those resources are there for you. Here are some that might look familiar to you. So I just thought I would include some famous prints, and this is the kind of slide you could put up in a classroom so that they understand how prints could look. there's also, I want you to start to look around, look at your collection of children's books, and, ask yourself, like, how was this illustration made? Was it made with clay? Is it a woodblock print? And maybe some of those things you're going to have to look up. And I'll have some links further down with some great artists and illustrators that connect with children's books, just to give you a small collection to start with. This is a local artist, Greg Tracy, who lives right by me. So I've connected with him, and he's helped me do projects for my class, the project I'm going to show you next. Charlie Young is an artist in Halifax, and she's also a teacher at NASCAD. And this was one of her prints. She did a project where she printed on a bunch of the picnic tables in Halifax. So I am big on using as many recyclable and free supplies as possible. So this is just a picture of how you might get yourself started to do printmaking with your class. A tip that I find really good is collect egg cartons for watercolor paints, because that's a really easy thing just to dispose of. It's recyclable, compostable, and easy cleanup. And unfortunately, Nova Scotia styrofoam trays are not recyclable yet. And so using them, though, for printmaking is great. Just collect them, make sure you wash them really well. And then you just cut the edge off so that you have a nice flat piece. And so I have found for you 2 really great videos on how to do the printmaking process on styrofoam. So basically what you're doing is you're taking a square of styrofoam, etching into it with some sort of marking tool, could be a pencil that's not too sharp, or a pen. And then you're brushing or rolling or painting some paint on top of it. And then you're pressing it down on paper, or you lay the paper on top and rub it, and your print will be made. And it's a great way to make multiples and repetitive things, like for patterning. And so these 2 videos would be very appropriate to show to your class, as well as for you to learn from. So this first one is on YouTube. It's for primary to grade 3 students, I would recommend. And then this one is for a little bit more advanced. So it talks about using multiple colors, multiple marking tools, and just a variety of different things. And this one's a little bit longer. It's like a 9-minute video, whereas this one's only 3. So a little more age appropriate. So when I did this project the first time, it was really fun, and I was connecting it to social studies for grade 1, and we were talking about identity. And yeah, I had primary at the time too, so we were connecting it to the social studies, our roots. And this little guy brought Brown Bear with him everywhere he went. And so we were talking about identity and, something we relate to and connect to. So I just thought this was great. And he absolutely loved this. And he made a ton of them. And I don't actually know what he ended up doing with them, but I suggested like he make his birthday invitations or something like that with Brown Bear. So I just want to show you that because it's so cute. And here are some of my kids in action. And so this is really accessible to a wide range of abilities, because prints are not meant to be identical. They're not meant to be perfect. This is so much about the process. And, this can connect so easily to your social studies, things like I mentioned, identity and roots, where we come from, our culture. It could connect to your science, things about animals, things about weather. And, our special event. I think this little guy was doing, these ones were for Valentine's Day. So once you have taught an art lesson and taught the process, then it's accessible to kids, as long as you have some supplies around, to demonstrate their learning at other times in other areas. Because you might have a child who really succeeded with this type of art making. And then in another time when maybe their fine motor skills for writing an actual sentence, an actual paragraph is not as strong for them, they could show what they know in another way. Yeah, and I'm just showing you some examples. Like I found this little piece of newspaper with a nice photo of a lake. So you can print on anything, and you can print with multiple colors, and kids have fun with that, experimenting. And yeah, I'm realizing my time. I'm gonna have to speed up, but So I just would like to show you in this presentation some ideas. I want you to be able to take away some things, even if it's just one thing you might try in the next school year to add to your repertoire, which then becomes part of the kids' repertoire for showing what they know. So here's an idea. You could be using this printmaking for math. You could do patterns. You could make arrays when you're doing multiplying for grade 4. You know, think about the spatial sense, the positioning that you need to do, the work you need to do in grade 5, symmetry. So lots of ideas. And you don't just have to use styrofoam. Um, you know, sometimes I question using food as a throwaway item with a class because it can set an idea that food is not a valuable resource. And so I am hesitant to use this. This is a potato. However, I know in our school garden, we often have some potatoes that just don't quite make it. And so we would use those. We'd use the really small ones that maybe have lots of blight that aren't actually going to end up as being food anyways. It's a possibility, but you can find other things. Maybe you have some sponge. But the styrofoam trays is what I really recommend. It works great. Another type of printmaking is called trace monotype. And a lot of kids really like this. So this is where you are using tracing paper to trace a picture that you see. Maybe these were from a gardening magazine that I had, and some carbon paper. And carbon paper actually is really cheap at the dollar store. And but you can also just trace things. Kids love trace. If they're at all feeling intimidated about their ability to draw, which I am always amazed how young that starts to happen, where they start looking around and thinking, oh, I can't draw that well. It really bothers me. But you can increase their confidence by really teaching the drawing method of observation. So draw what you see, but also tracing. There's nothing wrong with tracing. So you can encourage that. So if you're studying plants, get some plants and trace them. And it really helps with them improving their drawing because it's their mind and their hand. It's all connected as they are tracing over that shape. They're really looking mindfully at the shapes of the object, whatever it is, if it's a leaf. So you can encourage tracing. So this is just me, you know, reminding you and thinking a little bit outside the box and how you can connect things. In math, we do a lot with, you know, angles, 3D shapes, perspective. So something like this little bird feeder, you know, if you, before you ask them to draw the hallway in perspective, maybe they trace a bunch of perspective drawings first to get the idea, to get the feeling. Another type of printmaking is called frontage, which is like rubbing. And whenever I do this with my class, it's so much fun to watch. There's so many like moments because they're using a piece of paper, putting it over something that has texture, that has bumps. Like this little guy's on the radiator, and which has bumps, and then they run something over it, like the side of a crayon. Works so well. But you can also get into, with older kids, they can handle paint rollers. And so that works well too. And so I know a lot of you probably have done rubbings with leaves in the fall, and that's a fabulous thing to do. Connect it with your math, you know, talk about patterning, talk about shapes. But you can also use it for subitizing. Find things around the room that are in sets. Like this, our little dress up box had hinges on it. And instantly the kids were like, there's 3 of them. And, you know, or the coins, you could, down here is coins. And you could have them create their own little subitizing cards, maybe from things that they rubbed. Printmaking can be done also by pressing into clay. I was thinking about grade 4 science and fossils. And this is a neat little project. You just give them a clump of clay and then you go outside and they find something that they want to make a fossil of, and you press it into the clay and then you add your glue and let that dry, and it'll pop out and they'll have both the print and the actual fossil in their hand. So it's kind of a neat project to do, and helps their understanding of how fossils are made. Another one with clay that I know, I've gotten to go to a Barbara Reed conference presentation before. It was really amazing. I love Barbara Reed books. I love clay. You know, her books are a great way to integrate language arts and clay art. You know, you can have students illustrate their own pictures. They can retell a portion of a Barbara Reed book themselves, but also things with clay, like you can do stop motion. And Barbara Reed's things are 2D, but maybe you're going to introduce them to 3D. So many possibilities with clay. And I put a great link here. Barbara Reed walks you through how to make a page in her book. The book is Subway Mouse in this video. And it's wonderful to watch, and you will learn so much from it, but so will your students. Again, this is where, remember, if you're not an expert yet, that's okay, right? You can let Barbara Reed be the expert, and you can show this to your class. This year, my grade 2s made amazing things, and I showed them, demonstrated a little bit, but I played this video for them, and they got most of their understanding from that, and the results were amazing. These were their great, great products. So this was the slide back. We just talked about Barbara Reed as an illustrator and the actual visual art of using 2D art to make illustrations. Then later in the year, when I was teaching the grade 2s about animal life cycles, and I said, you know, we're going to demonstrate our learning in a variety of ways, one of the students decided to use the Barbara Reed style, and this is what he made. So there's a turtle, and there's a duck family and a swan family, and he, you know, had done a lot of research on how these baby animals respond to their parents. He's even got a swan on the back here, and he was able, his fine motor skills were not at the grade 2 level, for his writing abilities, not at the grade 2 level, but he created this. He walked around the room with it in his hand, and he talked about these animal life cycles with such depth and fabulous explanation. It was amazing. And so he was able to very easily demonstrate what he knew and using art. And so that's what I'm asking all of us to try a little more. I was thinking, you know, grade 6s for your science, for biodiversity. Another idea, potentially, you can use clay. Grade 3s, I know that one of your science topics is soil, and this is a fun thing to do with clay. You can have the layers of soil, and you can take little core samples using a straw, and that's fun. They like that. But you know, you can use clay for lots of things. Grade 6 science, layers of the earth, phases of the moon. Just use your imagination, and yeah. So I'm moving, hopefully not too fast for you. I'm going to just talk a little bit about paper folding briefly. So grade 6 science is flight. I think probably you're actually making airplanes with your class, which is excellent. And here's a really great video that I found on how to make 5 easy airplanes. And they get more advanced as they go along, but I know that my grade 1s were able to do the first one. Just what we did is we played the video through, then we all got our paper organized, and then we played it through step by step, and I just paused the video whenever we needed to or went back, and they loved following along. So for procedural writing, for example, this is a great way to show we're following a procedure to make something fun. And so that's an idea for anyone for language arts, making a language arts connection. So when I did that with my class, then when it was getting closer, this was a while ago because we were having a Christmas concert around the end of December. And our class was asked, like every class, to do a decoration for the gymnasium for the concert. And we had been making paper airplanes like crazy. Like some of them would not stop. There were times when I had to put away all the paper out of sight because they would be constantly making paper airplanes. So then I thought, okay, well, let's use all this folding talent, which was, you know, improving their fine motor skills, and they were learning about symmetry, like so many great things. So I thought, okay, we're going to put these paper airplanes to use. So we worked together and made this group mural, which they had a lot of fun with. In our visual arts curriculum, it talks about puppet making And I was really intimidated by that one at first because I thought, how am I going to have my grade 1s and 2s sewing or even a hot glue gun? I just thought this isn't really part of it. But then I started thinking of my own childhood and things that I loved, going to a natural history museum and seeing shadow puppets. And so this is such a great one that you can use anytime. I first introduced it with my class around Halloween. And in this picture, there are 2 kids here that they were very shy, and it took a lot to get them really showing all their emotions and really having fun in front of the rest of the class. They would often, just be shy. But as soon as we put up this screen, it was like something took over and they had the puppet. The puppet was the one talking. They would retell stories, they would make up stories. It was great. So I highly encourage you trying something with puppetry, and shadow puppets is a very easy way to start. I just had a roll of white paper and I taped it between 2 chairs, and I put the classroom lamp at one side and the carpet on the other side. So the audience is all on the carpet and the kids would just take turns. And, for the Halloween, for the first experimenting, I made a lot of the puppets, but they started to make some too. So some kids are in the corner making puppets, and they just love it. So it's a great way to have kids retell a story, summarize events in a story that they've already read, or extend a story. So really great connections to language arts there. But you could definitely also connect that to your science or your social studies. Introducing cultures around the world, science. Like I'm just even going back to that animal life cycle thing. You could make puppets and demonstrate the life cycle of, a frog, for example. So another super neat folding technique is called a zine. And a lot of you may have heard of it before. I just learned about zines a little while ago. Actually, my kids and I were watching a movie called Moxie. Maybe you've watched that too. And it's a zine is like a pamphlet. And I put a video here for you to understand how to make a zine. It's a particular way of folding paper. But basically what you're left with is a really cool small book that holds together, that can be photocopied, because this is just one sheet of photocopy paper. And so you can make multiples of this, which is really great. Zines originally were made to send a message, to give information, just like a pamphlet would. So it's a great one for all grade levels, for using for language arts, social studies, health, a way to give your opinion, to reflect on something, to summarize something. I know a lot of us are familiar with pic collage. It's like a pic collage booklet, for talking about a topic. It's really great. So this is one I made on gender identity. And I actually ended up, as an experiment, I made multiple copies and I put them in the mailboxes of all my staff. And it's fun, and kids can do that too, and they really like it. So that brings me to text art, because in a zine, there's a lot of drawing, but there's also a lot of text. So just encouraging you to have fun with text, because sometimes in our language arts, we get limited to just the pencil and the paper, or or markers, or, for fun, we're going to get out the whiteboards, the little mini whiteboards and whiteboard markers, and all of that is fabulous and improves fine motor skills. It's great practice. And I just want to encourage you to keep expanding on that repertoire. So having kids use paint instead, for example, or here was another one that I introduced at around Halloween time. We were just practicing sight words, and I needed quite a few kids to have sort of a better grasp of their fine motor skills. This was grade 1. So we used white crayon and then brushed over with orange paint. And they loved this. I made this up, called it ghost writing. I'm pretty sure I saw the idea on something else like Pinterest, but I called it ghost writing. They thought it was hilarious. It was great. And we did it often. And kids would just, we'd say, okay, we're going to practice some sight words now. How do you want to practice? Some kids would go get whiteboards. Some kids would go get their little watercolor pad of paper, So it's fun and just sort of, kids will remember things better if they are having fun generally, and it's a medium that they're familiar with and are finding easier. So the more you do things like this, the easier it will be for your class. There's so many possibilities with text art. I'm going to speed through a little bit because I'm seeing my time. And but altering text is a super fun one. I was thinking like for grades 4 to 6, and they're learning about economics and marketing and health, just healthy food. So I made this one. I took the Life cereal box that was in my cupboard and I altered it to show lies, just because it's promoted as such a fairly healthy cereal. And I was trying to show my kids, like, actually, you got to read labels. Like, there's sugar, a lot of sugar in this. And so, but altering text, kids have a lot of fun with that. You can also do that with blackout poetry. You can, give kids a piece of text on a topic, and then everyone's can be different. You give them a black Sharpie or a black marker, and they cross out the unimportant words to them and focusing on more important words. So that's fun. And just, this was a project that I did with a Girl on Fire group, and where we were, really focusing on our identity and positive self-esteem. And this is a combination of text, drawing, and photography, which was a fun project and really got the kids engaged. And I mean, you could do that with any topic, right? Think of a science topic, and could you photograph it? Could you add text? I'm really going to move on past photography. I feel like when I see classrooms, we're doing a really good job with the iPads and other things. We're using Book Creator, Collage, Google Slides. Kids, especially after that online time, they're just whizzes, which is so great. So, but there is a link here for you if you want to know a little more about the history of photography, and in turn the history of cameras, because that's just zoomed. Yeah, you can click on that link when you get this presentation, and you can learn more yourself. This was a fun project. I was thinking about grade 5s because part of their health or social studies is gendered media messages. So this was a project I did for NASCAD with the nude. It may not be appropriate for the classroom, but this was just an example I wanted to show you. This is a very famous painting by Manet called Luncheon in the Park, but it's quite striking to me that the men are fully clothed and this woman is completely naked. And so, yeah, I just found clothing from another painting, put them on her. And yeah, it's a fun way for kids to think about advertising, for example. The next type of art that I want to touch on is collage art. Collage art, because it is so accessible in the sense that you can use any type of paper that you have available to you. So that could be newspapers, flyers, magazines, anything from the recycling bin, construction paper. You can even use plain white paper that's been painted. And so I'm going to show you some of those fun projects and get you thinking of how you could integrate that into other subject areas. So collage art has been around forever, since 1910, and it was coined by Cubist artists, Braque and Picasso. And collage means to glue. So anytime you're cutting and gluing. So this is great for kids. It's helpful at the younger grades to work on their fine motor skills and practice cutting. And it's a way where your cutting doesn't have to be perfect. Like, it's a process and it's practice. So here on this page, I have a link for you to the history of collage if you would like to learn a little more about it. Hannah Hawk is a very famous artist that came out of the movement as well. And so here are more of, these are pieces that I thought you could show a class, for example, and they're quite well known, and they usually find them quite interesting when I showed my class these. And all of these things have links to the artist sites or to art museums so that you can have more information if you would like. Renee Matthews and Elizabeth Spawner are two really famous Canadian collage artists, and both these collages are huge. They're the size of a wall. They're pretty amazing, and it'd be great to show your kids, Canadian artists. And so I've got links here for their websites and for your own perusal and own ideas. So my class saw this, and it led to some projects, which you'll see in a minute. There are so many collage illustrators in children's books. So part of this presentation, what I really want you thinking about is, what do you already have in your possession? Like, just look through your children's books with new eyes, asking yourself, how was that art made? Because I think you'd be surprised, and you could probably find for yourself a small collection, like 3, 4 maybe, of each of these styles of art in the read alouds that you already have. Look for artists that have used collage. Look for artists that have used printmaking. And I have lists of those attached to this presentation as well for you, so you can see. But look through what you already have. So Ashley Barron is a great Canadian artist, and her newest book is called Up: How Families Around the World Carry Their Little Ones. So I put a link here to her website, and that's where too you can have videos where, if you don't own this book, for example, you can play it on your smart board for your class if you have that. And another one is Sharon King Chai. She is a Polynesian artist who now lives in London, and the art in this one is absolutely amazing. Very appropriate for primary, but honestly, every grade would enjoy the art in this book, so it can be used. So I encourage you to use picture books, in every grade, right up to grade 12, really, to show various art. So magazines are a great way to get started with collage art. So you can go to yard sales and Frenchies and find lots of magazines that are appropriate for kids. National Geographic is one that I actually subscribe to because my kids love reading it, and then I take it to my class. So I've got lots of these National Geographics, and they are great. So my class read this book called Mixed Beasts, and we were in the middle of the grade 1s really talking about characteristics of living things. And I know that this would also connect for grade 3 for their living things science, and also grade 6s talk about biodiversity and adaptations of animals. So this is a really fun way to then have kids really like deconstruct some animals and really be mindful about the parts of animals and the reasons they have those parts. And so you could connect your science and art by doing a fun project like this. So we made our own mixed beasts, and the kids did great. We entered some of these in our local little art fair, and it was a big success. Another fun way to use collage is when you're talking about identity. Sometimes if you ask someone, to draw a picture of themselves, that can be challenging for some people. And so using collage is a great way because you're finding images. So again, collecting magazines that are, appropriate for kids. You got to look through first, make sure you've got kid-friendly magazines, and looking through your collection of books. I know the grade 1 teachers were given this book that was illustrated by Cree artist Julia Flett. And so yeah, introducing in language arts with a book, and going for the art. Moving along, weaving. So I'm just touching briefly on the weaving, but I'm giving you this suggestion. Why not weave paper, since you've now got lots of magazines that you've collected? And I was just thinking, like, grade 1s could do this to represent a season or the seasonal change that is happening. Grade 3s for their social studies, talking about Nova Scotia, or grade 5s when they're doing social studies about Canada. So just a bunch of ideas, but weaving paper is really fun. And you're also, using mathematical skills. Maybe you're measuring your paper to make sure, like in the upper corner there, they're all the same width. And so lots of interconnectedness there and integrating. So there are a lot of collage artists, like I said, that are illustrators of children's books. Most of you know Eric Carle. And Lois Elhart is a great one. So many books that you'll recognize. if you're a lower elementary teacher, I would think, like growing vegetable soup and eating the alphabet, but there's a zillion more. So there are links here so you can look up each of those artists. And Zoe Hall. So this book, The Surprise Garden, inspired a project that my class did, a group project, and to make a group mural. So we were getting some funding, from a group called Rooted for our cafeteria, and they asked for some art to promote what they were doing. So my class looked at Eric Carle books and saw how that art was done by painting paper first and then creating objects after that paint was dry. And they went wild with this and loved it. And I'm just going to show you, we made a group mural. Everyone decided what they liked in gardens, what they liked to eat, and what they liked to see growing. And then they just decided where on the mural they wanted to put it. And yeah, that was our mural in the end. And they were super proud of themselves, and it was a beautiful result. And there was all those outcomes to do with teamwork and making an art project together. So that was really great. And here's another idea, using a story as a launching point. So Ezra Jack Keats uses collage art, and Snowy Day is super famous. I'm sure most of you have heard of that. But you can connect this, right, to, it's not just your read aloud for the day. Maybe you're going to connect it to an art project to introduce collage to your class that then can be used later in science or some other, area that they're going to demonstrate their learning. So, think about maybe you teach grade 5 and you want to talk about changes of weather, or grade 1, seasonal change. Maybe you're going to create a class book. Maybe everyone is making one page for the book. Maybe you're going to redo this story with a different season, not the snowy day, but the sunny day. So many options. And for your high-tech classrooms, maybe you're going to take photographs of each page and make it into a book creator book. Possibilities endless with books. Here's another one. Lois Elhart, I love her work, as you can see, but this is one where she uses leaves, and there's a YouTube link there. If you don't own this awesome book, you can play it on your screen to show your students. And it's a great way to have your kids outside connecting with nature. They're going to collect things, found objects from the ground, and make scenes to represent a picture that they can then write about, tell a story about. So it's a really fun way to do collage. Math connects nicely with patterning and geometry, and collage you can coordinate there by using any types of paper. This year, one of my colleagues, Jenna Kilfoy, she did this great bit of art where she was teaching arrays, and her class had a really fun time making cities. And it's just a fun and sort of different way of learning, to really have all that come together for students by learning in a variety of ways and then being able to show what they know in a variety of ways. So I'm hoping that you are getting inspired and that you have a few ideas. I just, I want to kind of show you that you don't really need fancy supplies to allow your students to demonstrate what they know in a variety of ways. And I want you to start collecting. So collect the recyclables over the summer that you have. You'll be amazed how many egg cartons you might be able to get, or styrofoam trays. Collect pieces of cardboard, interesting pieces of paper. Like, if you get a gift in a gift bag, that can be cut up. That's beautiful paper that can be reused. Go to yard sales and look for magazines, interesting found objects from nature for your fossil topic. Like, just start collecting stuff, anything with texture, and take lots of photographs. You can take photograph of things you find, like text and signs and fabric designs, architecture, things in nature that you then use with your class. So I really want you opening your eyes to see that art is everywhere. It's in everything. If you really start looking, it's in your collection of read alouds, and just integrate. It will be great. So that's my message for you today. And I am very willing to give you this presentation so that you can check out all the links and get started. So you are welcome to email me anytime. I love helping colleagues with art ideas. So if you're feeling a little stuck or you're not sure how you could integrate art into some of your areas, just please feel free to email me. And yeah, I will respond and love to help you out. I love anything art. And I'm wondering, does anybody have questions? Okay, I'm just looking at the chat a little bit. You can use paper airplanes for measurement as well. Yes, fun. Love that idea. Great. So I'm really grateful. I know that when I go to conferences, I want to come back with ideas that I can actually use in my classroom. So hopefully it wasn't too rushed and it wasn't too much of a bombardment. I just, yeah, I'm hopeful that you can see it's not as challenging to integrate these things and that it is super helpful for students who, for example, if their fine motor skills aren't as strong yet, if they can show their learning in a different way, it's really inviting for them and helps them succeed. And yeah, so thank you for coming today. I hope you enjoy the rest of your conference. And I can put my email address in the chat. So you are welcome to email me. I will definitely give you the presentation if you email me, but I'm pretty sure there's a way. Oh, Genius Pads, did I do that right? I'm pretty sure there's a way to connect it here to this Learning Academy. So I will find out about that and I will try to do that for you. But there's my email. You can certainly email me and I will give that to you. So please, yes, call Miranda, call yourself an artist. You are an artist and you're giving, yourself permission. Artists, it's a process and there's failures and there's successes. And yeah, you might be surprised. So I will stay on for a little bit longer. If there are questions, I'll just monitor the chat. But yeah, otherwise, thank you so much. And I hope you enjoy your day. And hopefully you'll get out in the sun a little bit and enjoy your next presentation. Great. Oh, I see my colleague, Angela. Thanks, Angela. Really appreciate your support.